always say when my mom passes away, I'm gonna need a stadium because of the amount of people that she's helped. I think my parents have been some of the biggest influences. My dad, on the other hand, he's more the supporter. Like he's there, whatever mom needs, he's there. He's had regular jobs, but he's always been the one who's pushed us on that entrepreneurial route. Nobody even listens to your show. I remember like my mom and dad were the only ones who listened to our podcast the first maybe, I don't know, 60, 70 episodes, right? But it's cool because at the beginning, we sucked anyways. Right? Like it was not like if you go to listen to our episode 1, I warn you, it's trash, right? It's not very good at all. But so is every Mr. Beast's first YouTube video is trash, right? Kobe's first time on the court was trash. Like Brady's first time picking up a football, trash. While Kobe was playing, while Jordan was playing, people hated him.
Yeah.
People hated him for the work ethic. People hated him for their ability to be better than everybody else for the reason that they knew they could be doing the same thing, but weren't willing to do it. It was a reflection. About a year ago, I was like, all right, I think I'm done. I crossed that 1,000 episode marker, right? And I was like, I think I'm done. I'm gonna hang up the towel here. I'm gonna close all the free episodes, and I'm only gonna leave the paid ones. Maybe we'll get rid of that. Nope, those kept coming too. Right. And so like, when you start doing something consistently on a regular basis, you're putting out a good product, something that people enjoy and learn from.
Did you know there's a technology that's actually an app on your phone that uses sound waves to tell your brain what you want your brain to do? We had a young man that was on a guest on our podcast, the Mike Litton Experience, who had a traumatic brain injury. He was sleeping 3 hours a night. He's using NewCalm now and he's sleeping more. Go to newcalm.com. Mike15 promo code. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. Mike is passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
Hernan Sias, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Show, Mike Litton Experience. I'm so excited for our time together, I can't even talk, right? So what we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go up to today. We want to talk about these amazing classes that you're doing for high school seniors to help them get started in life. These are all classes that really we should have been taught in high school, and we were not, right? And so we had to end up learning it through the school of hard knocks, so to speak, right? Some of it was in college, but a lot of it wasn't. So thanks again for being here, bud.
Of course, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, excited to have you.
Yeah, man. I mean, you've been at this for quite some time, from one fellow podcaster to another. I congratulate you for doing what you're doing. It's not an easy feat. Most podcasts only last about 14 episodes. So like the fact that you got more than 14 is already a huge win. So congratulations to you. And I appreciate what you're doing for people.
Thank you. I actually read a statistic that 98% of podcasts don't make it past the second episode.
Yeah,
we're over 340, dude. We're over 340. It's like,
that's what I'm talking about.
Wow.
Yeah. Usually the people I talk to there, episode 20, maybe episode 100, 300 it's a huge feat, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you, bud. Thank you. We turned 2 in 3 days.
Isn't it amazing how time flies?
Unbelievable.
A blink of an eye. I literally had this post yesterday on my Facebook page because Facebook throws in like memories, right?
Yeah.
So there's these memories of my kids, and they're little. They're like, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years old, and they're like giggling, laughing. They're like 15, 16 now. So I don't know where the time went. It just flew by, but that's what time does, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Mine are 25 and 26. How in the world that happened? You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, it's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. So where were you born?
Yeah, man, I was born in West Covina, California. I was born
not far from here, because you're in San Diego now, right?
I'm in San Diego, yep. Yeah. Born into a Dodger family. So sorry, I got Dodger blood, but I grew up in San Diego. So I got no hate for the Padres. I got nothing but love for the Padres, except when we play the Dodgers. I got to root for the Dodgers.
Yeah, you got to. That's one of the hottest times. Those series, man.
Oh, yeah.
Here and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there are people in families that are wearing Dodger blue and Padre brown, right? I mean, it's like, it's
I'm guilty of
nuts,
doing the
man.
same thing. Absolutely. I wear a Dodger
Crazy.
hat and a Charger. I was gonna say Chargers. I'm
Yeah.
an ex-Charger fan. I can't
Are
say
you an
ex.
ex-Charger fan?
I can't say ex. I always refer to them as like the hot ex-girlfriend, right? Where
Yeah.
you got to watch because they're the team that you loved for so long. But if they lose, it's okay. You don't feel so bad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You know what we ought to do? We ought to scrape our pennies together and just go buy the Chargers and bring them back down here.
That's what I'm saying. I hear Chula Vista is building this nice big
60,000
area,
seat,
right?
baby. 60,000
For,
seats. Have you been to the Gaylord Resort?
I haven't been to the resort. I haven't been inside. I've been around the resort quite some time, been watching it as it's been going up for quite some time. It's a beautiful, amazing place.
It's unbelievable. It's like a whole different world in there.
Yeah.
Just so you know, it's really crazy. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous.
And trying to get a day pass in
billion,
there?
1.4 billion, something like that. Yeah, I mean,
I've been trying to get a day pass for to take the kids out there. They got a lazy river and all that stuff, but it's just so popular right now. Like as soon as you go on there, there's like hardly anything available. And one day soon it'll happen.
I actually I'm part of a networking group of like CEOs and owners and that kind of thing. And we had a guy there who just moved to Chula Vista. He takes his kids all the time. He said he goes on first thing in the morning, like right when it's about, I don't remember what time it was, but like when it's first available, he gets in
right away.
Like, yeah. Right. Gets his four passes, and he said it sells out fast.
Yeah, you got to be Johnny on the spot with that one and lock it in. So it'll happen when I really want to go. You'll be right there like a Taylor Swift fan, ready to pop on those tickets.
That's it. So you grew up in West Covina?
No, I mean, I did a little bit of time in LA. I think I came to San Diego like when I was in the first grade, and I've been here ever since. So San Diego is really home. I still live here in San Diego today. The podcast is based right here out of San Diego. I teach out of East Chula Vista, so I at East Lake High. And so this is home for sure. Sure.
That's awesome, dude. I just was recently hired by Southwestern University. So I'm now, for the first time I've been teaching for 33 years, right? For free. And for the first time in my life, I'm now a professional teacher.
There's something to be said about teaching. Like I got into teaching, and I'll tell you, I've been in like an entrepreneur for pretty much most of my life. I had my very first job out of high school working at Wells Fargo Bank. And I thought it was awesome. I mean, it was the first time I put money in my pocket. It was cool. But the Wells Fargo that I worked at was the cash vault. So it wasn't like a traditional branch. We would get all the change orders from big companies, Carl's Jr., Walmart's, the Padres, all these different companies. The big like secure trucks would come in, deliver the night drop deposits. We'd process them, sort checks, cash, change, and then take the cash and sort it by denomination, and then put it into straps and bricks, and then send that money back out. And I remember working there, and I was sitting there filling these envelopes for the Padres, and it was their dinner money, their per diem dinner money for a road trip they were going, like a 3-day road trip. And I remember filling that envelope, and I was like, man, these guys are getting more in food money than I was getting in my entire month's paycheck. And that's kind of when that light bulb went off, and I was like,
their per diem food money.
Yes, the per diem, not their salary, right? Not their
per diem is per day, baby.
Yes. And so, I was like, I'm doing something wrong. I'm playing this game incorrectly here. So, especially seeing as I thought I was going to be a professional baseball player, and that didn't pan out. That would have been cool to get that per diem.
Could have been the per diem guy.
Exactly. But it didn't pan out. So I picked up this book by this guy named Robert Kiyosaki. Everybody knows who he is, right?
Yeah.
And it changed my life. It opened the door. It opened my eyes to like a whole new world of how this game of money is played. And I thought I was an expert, and I went in head first, and I'm pretty much going to tell you a bunch of stories here about that, but essentially that book right there, and then playing the board game Cash Flow really changed the way I approached almost anything after that. I didn't have a job for many years after that until after my first business went belly up. And at that point, it went belly up, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what happened here?" I was completely broke. I ended up owing Uncle Sam a bunch of money. I didn't know I was supposed to file taxes. My accounting system was something like I look at the cash box at the beginning of the day and then at the end of the day. And if there was money left over after I paid my guys, it was a good day. Like that was the accounting system. Then, apparently Uncle Sam didn't like that. And
Apparently.
apparently. So, after
What
going
was your
broke, I went
first
back to
business?
school. Yeah, I had a computer repair business.
Okay.
But I grew up, I graduated high school in 2000,
Mhm.
and right around that time, properties were actually in a pretty good situation. So my brother and I, my dad, who always influenced us to do stuff, never did it himself, but always influenced us and try. His thing was, I don't know all the answers, but I know that there are answers out there. And I remember
Mhm.
he hired this financial planner to come sit with us when I was 18 or 19 years old. And she sat down with us and we went over basically all our finances and said, where do you want to go in life? And this is where you are today. And our goal at the time, as every teenager's goal is, we're going to move out and we're going to get out of mom and dad's place. So my brother and I had this plan. We're going to get this apartment, or a little house and rent out the rooms, and we would be cool, right? We'd be out of mom and dad's place. And she said, why rent it? Why not buy it? And that kind of set us back, like, well, because we're kids, right? 18, 19-year-old kids can't buy a house.
Mhm.
She's like, well, do X, Y, and Z. And then, approach this person. And we just basically followed directions,
Mhm.
started putting money away. And then when we filed our tax return, where you get extra money instead of going on vacation, they put that money away.
Mhm.
And then when it came time to actually qualify, we qualified almost. Mom and dad had to co-sign a little bit for that first round. And before you know it, somebody was handing me as a 20-year-old kid keys to a house, right? And I was
Mhm.
like, what? This is a thing. This is real.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, my brother, who was working at for Cox Communications at the time, thought it would be a good idea to take his truck doing donuts out in Proctor Valley Road when there was no properties out there, right?
Mhm.
Rolled his truck, got fired, and so we had to somehow make our mortgage payment. So we put these flyers together. At the time, he was installing high-speed internet and he was helping people fix computers,
Yeah.
install their computers in high-speed internet. So we had these flyers and we went around and we're like, hey, you got computer problems? Give us a call. We'll help you out. And it was okay until we made like one slight modification. And this is the first venture into ever like learning marketing stuff.
Mhm.
We created these door hangers, which was kind of cool because we wouldn't get in trouble for putting flyers in mailboxes. Apparently, that's wrong too. You're
Yeah,
not supposed
apparently
to
you
do
can't
that.
do that. It's a
Apparently,
federal
you can't
law.
do that. Yeah, well, we didn't know that at the time. So we created these door hangers.
I got caught doing the same thing,
Yeah,
man.
right. Lesson learned. Lesson learned. That's how
And when
you
the
do. That's
postmaster calls you, you're like,
oh.
uh
I saw you doing it. I thought I could do it too. Like I thought, all you'd have to do is walk
like,
around.
why not put it where they go to get their mail?
It
This
made
makes
total sense,
sense,
right?
right? That 18-year-old brain is like,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Well, we got yelled at before that because we were putting flyers on cars, and then somebody, nobody called except for that person that called about,
right,
why are you putting trash on my car?
right.
So the school of hard knocks a little bit, but we created these door hangers to kind of offset that. Now we had a place
Mhm.
to put our information, but what really made the difference is we put these stickers at the bottom, and we're like, throw this flyer away, tack the sticker on your computer. When you have
Mhm.
problems, call us. And all of a sudden that really worked because we started getting one call a day, one client a day, then two, then four. Then we had to hire one guy, hire another guy. We
Wow.
ended up opening this little store in South Chula Vista off of East Street. And things were going good.
Mhm.
But my brother joined the Navy because his girlfriend broke his heart. So like literally,
Oh,
like he was like, hey, on Wednesday you got to take me to this spot. I'm gonna ship off and I'll see you later. I was like, what? Meanwhile, I got this company that I know nothing about computers. I just was helping him so we can make a mortgage payment, right?
right.
So I go to shut this thing down, and that's when I learned what I didn't know. I learned I
Mhm.
wasn't doing my accounting correctly. I learned Uncle Sam never got paid for anything because we never really filed a tax return. Because why would you do that?
Mhm.
I had marketing agreements with these old companies called Yellow Books, like Yellow
Mhm.
Pages,
Yep.
year-long contracts with those guys. We had long contracts with Penny Saver, which we would distribute our flyers at the
Mhm.
time. So we got a little smart on our distribution and our marketing. But unfortunately, even though we had a corporation, I didn't know about co-signing, and I had personally signed for all those agreements, a lease, the marketing agreements, all that stuff. So, when I went to shut this thing down, I learned how broke I actually was going to be and how horrible the situation was. But I had never earned so much money in my life either. And so, the only thing I thought about when I was going broke is when can I do it again? And when I do it again, I'm going to do it a little bit better. So
yeah, because you learn.
You learn.
Right? You fall on your face, you learn. Right?
Absolutely.
You scrape up your nose, whatever, but you learn. That's the biggest thing.
And it's not how many times you fall down, it's how many times you get back up, right? You hear that over and over again. I love that saying. And then it's absolutely true. So, when belly up, here's the irony in that. During that time, when we were doing really well, we had bought the house here in San Diego. We started to learn about real estate investing. And so we went out to Vegas, this 3-day event to learn about real estate investing, which at the time, if you ever went to any of those, they were rah, get you all pumped up, send you out in the property tour and then buy something. So we did. But just like anything else, as you do things, you start to learn. We bought this property in Vegas that was cash flow negative. Right. We were losing about $100 a month. And at the time we couldn't lose $100 a month. We were barely making it, making more money than we ever had before. Still didn't mean we had money like left over.
Right.
So, we had to figure out what to do. And this is where we started learning creativity in real estate. We ended up doing a lease option to buy with a tenant, made us cash flow positive, put a nice down payment in our pocket. We did that for about a year. Tenant said, nah, I'm not ready to buy. Can we extend it for another year? We did another extension, kept us cash flow positive. 6 months into that extension, they ended up buying us out. And I got my first check for $50,000 during that time. And that was 22 years old. The property's in Vegas. I'm going to escrow in Vegas to pick up a $50,000 check and sign, the sale of the property. That was awesome.
And you're how old?
I'm like 22 years old.
Yeah.
This is the first time, anything like this is happening. And I feel like it's working, like I'm doing this, like I'm making it happen. Well, meanwhile, I'm also shutting down a business that ends up happening. I ended up taking a lot of that money and paying off debt that I didn't know I was going to have because, I personally signed for stuff. Basically, when it was all said and done, I ended up selling the house that we owned here in San Diego. I ended up selling that one in Vegas. I went completely broke. It was like April of 2006. And in October of 2006, I was getting married. So it was the worst time to get married, but also, the best time to start over. It was at the very beginning. And even being dead broke, the first thing I did right after everything goes closed is I enrolled in tax school because I wanted to know, why did Uncle Sam take all my money and how can I keep more of it? And then I went back to school and I got my degree in accounting. Right. And I was like, I'm going to learn this money game and I'm going to play it right this next time.
Yeah, right.
Because the next one I do, this one's going to be right. And it still wasn't. But I fumbled and stumbled.
Again, you learn, right?
You learn.
Can I ask you a quick question? Or
Absolutely.
A couple of them?
You can. By the way, you can cut me off at any time. Otherwise, you're going to get me rambling.
I love you rambling, dude. Trust me. So, what was your favorite thing about growing up in San Diego?
My favorite thing about growing up in San Diego, I think, had to be the beach. I grew up in IB. And on 7th Street, I was like 6 blocks away from the beach. And
cool.
Even though I know people get a lot of flack about, the water quality in IB, I was a kid. Like, we go to the beach every single day. I might have superpowers because of it that have been unlocked. I might glow at night, but it was fun, dude. We had a great time. I'm growing up in the 90s, 80s, 90s, hopping on my bike, going to my friend's house, knocking on the door, going through probably every type of technology out there. I mean, we were the kids that played Nintendo and then Super Nintendo and then N64 and like every single console all the way up until, we were playing, Halo on Xbox when I was in high school at that time, or at the end of high school anyways. But I think for me, it's being close to the beach, being in IB, which is mapped out like a grid. If you ever, look what it looks like. So, and having all my friends, just the freedom to hop on a bike, hop on a bus, go do whatever. It was a completely different world than it is today. My kids
completely different world. Yeah. Completely different world.
My kids don't leave the house. They're out with their friends, quote unquote, right? Because out just means that they're online with them. So they spend a lot of time with their friends. It's just different because, we had such face-to-face interactions. I don't know how many times I probably almost died as a kid, but so many great memories made, and I don't know. It's a
It's a
different
different world,
generation.
man. It's a
It's a
different
different
world back then.
generation.
It was
Yeah,
really cool though. Really cool way to grow up.
it
So
was.
growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think it would have to be my dad, to be
Yeah.
honest.
What
You
did your
know,
dad do?
My dad was just a regular dude. Like he had pretty regular jobs. I mean, we came to San Diego because he was working for this company. If I remember correctly, because I was a kid, it was like this trophy company,
Mhm.
and so he had this great opportunity. They had moved their whole thing over to TJ, and so there was lots of opportunity. And the second we moved over here, the company went belly up, and
Oh
like my
no.
parents had to like start over. My mom was a stay-at-home mom at the time. She ended up going back to work. My mom's a freaking saint. She worked for American Red Cross WIC. So
Oh,
she was helping people, teaching them how to, feed babies and proper nutrition.
that is a saint, dude. She is a
She pretty
saint.
much runs a church to this day. She still runs a food bank that she
Wow.
doesn't even. She moved. Her and my dad have purchased a property out in Mexico. They built their house out in Mexico. It's about 3 hours from here in San Diego into Mexico, and they still drive over to LA to run the food bank once a month. And
Wow.
it's ridiculously time consuming and the commitment level, but that's what my mom does. I always say when my mom passes away, I'm gonna need a stadium because of the amount of people that she's helped. I think my parents have been some of the biggest influences. My dad, on the other hand, he's more the supporter. Like
Mhm.
he's there, whatever mom needs, he's there. He's had regular jobs, but he's always been the one who's pushed us on that entrepreneurial route. I remember when we were kids, he worked for this other company where they would do life rafts for boats. And in the life rafts, you always have to take out old material that's expired and then put in new stuff. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just that, the rubber cement glue and the batteries come out. And they would just get rid of them. So he'd take them and then we'd go to the swap meet and we'd sell them. And that was kind of our first interaction of making some money.
Mhm.
He would have us go door to door and sell cereal because cereal was pretty cheap. People didn't want to go to his thought was people don't want to go to the store, they'd rather have it delivered. And at the time we were
Mhm.
like, oh, who's gonna do that? Well, that's a novel idea. Amazon, thank you
Mhm.
very much.
No
Right?
kidding, right? How
But
many decades ago was that, right?
shoot, man, yeah,
Yeah.
it was like 25, 30 years
Oh,
ago.
that's
So,
wild.
and it's crazy, but a lot of those different little things like that he kind of installed and instilled in us. And like we had shaved ice. So he would buy us this block of shaved ice and this little thing where you can like scrape it down and make your little raspados. That's what the Mexican word is for it, or the Spanish word for it is. And here we are with this big block of ice, too small to even shave the ice ourselves, but we're out there, waiting for a customer to come at any moment.
That's
So
so cool.
that's the kind of stuff that I grew up with. None of them were very successful, and he barely knew hardly anything that it had to do with business or growing a business.
Yeah.
But he planted the seeds, right? And
Yeah.
and that's kind of the key to where I'm at today is because of those seeds being planted. And also because my mom's works her butt off, and it's
Mhm.
always for something that has zero benefit to her other than helping other people, and which is probably one of the greatest joys in the world. I think she's one of the main reasons why I became a teacher, because
Yeah.
I love doing exactly that. Like when the light bulb goes off and they all of a sudden understand,
Mhm.
that's amazing. And then the secondary to that is I get to watch these kids grow up and become adults and have kids of their own, and they still reflect back, hey, I remember you made high school awesome, or I learned this, or I was able to implement that. Like those things are like there's no words that can express the feeling that you get for being able to change someone's life, the joy that you feel. And it's been a big influence for sure.
That look in their eye, right?
Yeah.
Like when you realize that they get it, and
Yes.
there you can't put a price tag on that, man. There's no way. And there's a euphoria that I get, an energy that I get when I teach. I don't like touch the ground afterwards,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't even know what it's called. Maybe it's adrenaline, maybe it's dopamine, whatever, right? Dopamine or whatever. I don't know, but it's hard to quantify. It's absolutely true. When the student's ready, the teacher will appear,
Hmm.
you know? And to see somebody get it when you're teaching is just it's hard to describe
Yeah.
how cool
Yeah.
that is, you know?
Exactly.
And the coolest thing for me is that you had all these situations where you fell sort of flat on your face when it came to finances and taxes and all that kind of stuff. And now you're teaching what
all
we
that
should have
stuff.
been taught in high school, right? You're now teaching that to high schoolers. So let's go back for just a second. So when did you get to the place where you decided to start teaching high schoolers?
Yeah. So after the computer repair company, and I went back to school, got my degree in accounting. I went to tax school. I was working for H&R Block for a few years,
Oh,
left H&R Block, and kind of just started my own practice. I didn't really like promote it. I just kind of left, and some clients decided to follow me. Some a lot of it was family, and over the years it's like it just kind of grows on its own.
yeah.
And now I got tax pros that kind of help me out and do most of the tax preparation. I just kind of do my own and a couple family members, and so that kind of has grown on its own.
Mhm.
After that, we did house flipping for a while until about 2008. Actually, I'm like, we started house flipping around 2008, and we
Mhm.
stopped around 2012 when I thought we hit the peak of the market. Boy, was I wrong. So I parked my money. We ended up buying this video game truck at the time, 32-foot trailer. It's got TVs inside, and I started doing kid birthday parties. I had my real estate license because of the house flipping, so I started doing a little bit of that as well. And along the way, I got called to teach tax school for a buddy of mine who owns a Mike Russ financial training center here well, now we're in Coronado, but it used to be in Claremont.
Mhm.
And so I started teaching tax school for him. And that was a really cool experience. That opened up the door to a partnership, since he was mostly licensing insurance agents.
Mhm.
And with my background in taxes and accounting, I did the taxes and accounting for an insurance agency. He recruited from people from his school, and we partnered with somebody else who had like 20 years experience in insurance, and we created Pipeline Insurance. And that started around 2012, and it's been a great that's one of the businesses I currently own today. It's still doing phenomenally well for us, and it's been a good thing. But along the way, I found out that the wife was pregnant, and
Oh.
she had always wanted to be a teacher since she was a kid.
Mhm.
That's her calling, since she's been teaching teddy bears, in before kindergarten, right? So that was her passion. She was already doing that, and when I found out that we were gonna have kids, I was like, I should probably do something where I have my weekends back,
Mhm.
something where we're all on the same schedule. So I decided to get my teaching credential, and I got it in math. And so right around the time my kids started kindergarten is when I started teaching, so that we kind of be all on the same schedule. And, I was teaching, basic math, algebra, geometry, that sort of stuff. And then this class opened up. Right. This class called financial algebra, and the high schools treated it like a dump class. All the kids that couldn't pass regular math class were put into this class, and nobody wanted to teach it. Right.
Why?
Well, it's because the high school system, right, wants to put out as many college potential kids as possible. College ready, right? That's kind of the
Okay.
idea behind it. And so if you're not college ready, then at least you got to graduate. And so there's the opportunity for you to get math credit without they call them A through G's, right? So they're without the college requirement. So financial algebra fits the graduation requirement. So it's kind of a dumb class, which was perfect because I thought those are the kids that are more entrepreneurial anyways.
Right.
They're not the ones who are going to clock into the 8 to 5. They're the ones who have their own personality. And what I found really weird was not so much that it was a dumb class, was that none of the teachers wanted to teach it. Right. Nobody wanted to pick up that class. One, because of probably the kids that were in there. But
Mhm.
two, I think most people didn't have that background, right? They were uncomfortable talking about their personal taxes or their investment strategies
Actually,
or
that
their
makes perfect
budgeting,
sense. Yeah, that
right?
makes
Like,
perfect sense.
and it was odd, and I didn't see that at the time. It kind of developed over the years, but for me, I was like, who wants to teach this class? Boom, that's me, right? That is
Mhm.
all my class right
Yeah.
there. So I had a lot of
Given your
flexibility.
background and everything, I
Yeah.
mean, come on.
A
Yeah.
lot of flexibility in what I could do. I had nobody really checking on me because I had the kids that they just wanted them to pass,
Yeah.
right? And I had a lot of fun with it. I'm still having a lot of fun with it. So I got the kids that struggled. And one of the first things I do at the beginning is I have this slide presentation that I do for the kids. And one of the slides says, it has a picture of me and it says, look, I know, and 90% of you in this class suck at math. And that's why you're here. Right. And they all look at me like, what? But that's the truth, right? It is. And then after that, it's like, okay, now that that's out there, let me tell you the truth. The truth is you don't suck at math. The truth is you don't feel like doing it because you don't see any outcome, right? There's no future in it.
How am I going to use this in the future?
How am I going to use this in real life? If it's not going to use it, you don't care. It's
when
not
you're
relevant.
sitting there doing calculus, I mean, come on, man.
I'm glad you know derivatives, but it's not going to do anything for you unless you're, building bridges or something.
Exactly.
So, for these guys, it was like, look, let me show you the stuff that you're actually going to use in real life.
Yeah.
And let me show you how I've applied them to help me in my own life.
The stuff you need to
find
know.
Success. Yes.
Yeah.
And then when you graduate, like, I'm going to make sure that you have the skill set to at least, at the time it was balance your checkbook, but we want to do that anymore. We use apps now, but manage your money correctly, have a plan or a budget in place, have a savings system set up for yourself, and then at least know how to read your tax return. Will you have to file tax returns professionally like I do? No, you don't have to do it paid, but you should at least be able to read your tax return and know what's on it because you signed the bottom of the line saying that you declared that you know what's on your return. Under penalty of perjury, you're signing that bottom line.
And you're responsible for it, regardless of whether you prepared it or somebody else did.
100%.
That's something they need to understand, right? 100%. It's like, you really are signing off saying that you hired somebody to prepare this and you approved it.
Yeah.
That really is what you're doing.
Well, yeah. And most people don't know that. They're like, I'm a tax person. They got it taken care of. And you just sign this paper and then off it goes until the IRS decides to question something. And hopefully at that point, you had somebody who legitimately prepared your return. And even if they legitimately prepared your return and some of your deductions or whatever aren't justified or whatever, you have to have a way to say, look, this is why it's justified. This is why we put it on here. And this is how it makes sense.
Right.
But you don't always know what you even deducted on your tax return or what is on there, what it says, because you've never learned to read it. Yeah. And so, I want my kids walking out at least with that knowledge and ready to rock and roll. So it's been a fun path. I've been able to definitely influence a lot of kids. And I always joked, I was like, man, the school is amazing, isn't they? Like, what do you mean? I go, they're letting me talk to you guys for a whole year about important stuff. And then when you leave, if you decide you don't want to do your tax returns, guess who you're going to call? You're probably going to call me, right? So every year I pick up a few clients that are former high school students and now they're in life. And that's how I get to kind of see what happens, right? I see them get married. I see them have kids. I see them progress. I get to finish with the regular jobs to have a career. It's really amazing to watch. I've been doing this since 2013 now. So definitely watch some kids grow up and become amazing adults.
So what's the single most important thing you learned teaching these high schoolers about taxes, about finance, about life?
That they're still 17. Yeah. So they're still teenagers, and as relevant as all the information is, it's not relevant to them for the next year after you leave high school. So as much as you think the material is going to help them and benefit them, they're still teenagers, and you have to remember that at the core, you as a teenager, you wanted to have fun. And you wanted to have relationships. And that too is an important part of high school, because when you look back at your high school years, you're not going to remember that technical part of the class, right? That essay you wrote or that test you got a B on or whatever. You're going to remember the memories that you made while you were there. Yeah. And so part of how I implement stuff in my classroom is I want to get to know my students on that personal level. What's going on in their life? What dramas are they going through? What boys or girls are you after that you like or having issues with? Or, are you getting your driver's like all these different things that seem irrelevant make your content much more relevant because they know you care. And that's that to me is probably one of the ways that I've seen successful teachers all over become really successful is they know that their material is important, but the student themselves, they have a personality behind them. They're not just a number or grade. They're a person that you're also trying to develop and prepare for life.
So would you say, and again, I'm just asking, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would you say that sort of the most important thing in terms of success as a teacher, especially when you're teaching high schoolers, is connection?
Human connection.
Yeah.
100%. And
So
think
you
about,
have to connect with them on their level, right?
100%. And here's the sad part. I used to be funny, and now my jokes go over their heads because my references, they're all old. My songs are all old.
You're ancient, right?
Yeah. I
I
gotta
know
come up
that
with new
feeling,
stand-up
dude.
material, man.
I
Like
know that feeling. I'm like talking. I talked about something the other day, and they're like, "What's that?" Oh my God.
Yeah. We were talking about the NASDAQ, and it's like the National Association of Dealers, quantitative system, something like that. And so I made this reference. I was like, you don't have to write all that, just write NASDAQ. That's how we reference it. And then I'm like, anybody Marvel fans here? And it used to be that everybody raised their hand, everybody was a Marvel fan. Now it's like 4 or 5 kids, and
Yeah.
I'm like,
What's that?
yeah,
Right?
what's that? And
Yeah.
I would make a shield reference because the same type of big old long acronym. And like, again, crickets, like nobody gets it
So
anymore.
funny.
It's lost. But human connection is the biggest piece, because think
Yeah.
about like any successful entrepreneur, right? Any successful business, there's a brand behind it, and it's because they've made a connection with human beings. And every successful entrepreneur that you ever talk about, they talk about their network and the relationships that they built, and those are the things that opened up doors. That human connection is super valuable, and especially in an era now where we're so connected and yet very disconnected as a species. It's weird, but we got to remember that that's what makes us human, is our connection to the next person next to us.
Yeah. So we're connected technologically, but we feel more disconnected than ever.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've discovered on this podcast is people are just yearning for connection. They're yearning to connect with another person, right? And to feel that feeling of, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's crazy. So one lady that I was talking to the other day was feeling completely disconnected, right? And isolated and the whole thing. And this is that when the student's ready, the teacher will appear, right? She goes to a training. She attends a training that I did last year in La Mesa. Okay. And at that moment, at that time, I walked up to her and asked her a series of questions. Okay. And I was using an example of how to connect. So I asked her a series of questions, and from her response from that series of questions, I made a mental note that I know that she's struggling right now. She's having a tough time. She was going through, it turns out she's going through a big breakup personally, right, with her boyfriend. I didn't know that at the time. I found this out yesterday.
Afterwards, yeah.
Well, I found this out yesterday. Day before yesterday, pardon me. And so I've stayed in contact with her, and she had come up to me after the training. She said, "Hey, I'm going to do this assessment, right? And I'll send it to you." Great. We'll sit down and go over it. Because I told him, I said, "Listen, because I was teaching behavioral assessment, and I told him, I said, if any of you want to take the behavioral assessment and you want to sit down and do a validation, we can certainly do that, because it's really eye-opening for them, right? And it teaches them who they are in terms of their personality traits, what their greatest fears are, that kind of thing." She said, I'm going to do this and send it to you. She never did. So I kind of stayed in touch with her lightly, right? I hosted a real estate symposium seminar on Saturday, and she showed up out of the blue.
Oh.
Okay. Sits next. She's like, "Can I sit next to you?" I said, "Sure." So she sits next to me for like 4 hours, right? And I looked at her and I said, "Hey," I said, "you never sent me that assessment that you told me you were going to do." "Oh, send me the link. I'll do it right now." So she did it. And she sent me the link Sunday. So I called her on Sunday and I said, "Can you talk for a minute?" And she said, "Yeah." 2 hours later, okay, we discover that she really has been going through like this major disconnection. She has all these people around her, and she's she's basically decided to isolate herself as a protection mechanism from everybody. Okay. She's more connected than you and me combined. Okay. But she's disconnected. You with me?
No, 100%.
And so we went through the whole thing, and she self-discovered as we went through this, because I asked her a ton of questions. She self-discovered going through this that she really is in a place where everything she talks about in terms of the groups she belongs to, the whole thing, she discounts all of it. And she distances herself from all of it. Like, just right. And I'm like, hey, your wall's up. You got to get past this. You got it right. So she called me yesterday to let me know that she is working on this now, and she realizes what it is that's actually taking place, right? But again, it's connection. You with me? I had a chance to connect with her on a deeper level, and now she's in a place where she's healing. Does that make sense?
No, it totally does. You know, I've been able to, thanks to the podcast, you know, we've done over 1,400 episodes now.
Wow.
And I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and there is this pit of despair that you feel as an entrepreneur. It's not that you're alone, but you definitely feel lonely. And it happens. It's funny because I've started to notice it a little bit in my workout journey. So, you know, I just turned 43. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life. I've almost got a 6-pack. Like, it's been phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
But lately, the closest people around me, and even including my spouse, a lot of times have this like hater feeling type thing. And and at first I was feeling a little offended by it. But then I realized that it's more of a reflection. They're seeing me do something that they know they can do, but are not doing. And so they feel that disgust in themselves, and it gets projected. And I feel like a lot of it happens with an entrepreneur mindset as well. You're so focused on the idea of what you're trying to build that you're becoming really successful. And actually you have people around who are helping you get there, but they're not bearing the same weight that you do. And you feel like you have to carry all these things, like Atlas carrying the world, right? Like the weight is 100% on your shoulders, and nobody else can do it as good as you, or nobody else cares as much as you, or nobody else is putting as much effort as you. And that becomes like in your own mind where you start to discount the relationships that are around you. That's where you're present with people, but not present in the moment. Your mind is always focused on, how am I going to pay that next bill? How am I going to put out this fire? How am I going to deal with this type of growth? Do I even want to take on that new project? And you're missing what's happening right in front of you. And it's almost like I've found in my personal experience, sometimes you got to change the frequency, right? Sometimes it's, you've been listening to music the whole time. You need to change it to an audiobook. You've been listening to an audiobook too long. Maybe you need to change it to music. You've been doing both. Maybe you should live in silence for a little while and let your mind start talking to yourself again. Detach, right? You've been sitting in your office. You need to get up and walk outside, right? Like there's different ways. And Tony Robbins is big on this, where he talks about his, change your physiology. And it's really giving yourself a moment of, something's off. I need to make a change, right? And realizing that something's off. Sometimes you're so engulfed in the things that you want to accomplish, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's how successful people become successful. But you find yourself in a point where you're in a dead end, and you've been in a number of dead ends, right? You knock down wall after wall after wall, which is what you got you to success. But some walls, sometimes you need to take a step back and really assess the whole situation, get your mind wrapped around it, and then you can come back and attack that thing full force. But we don't. We end up butting our head against the wall. Like, how am I going to fix this? 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 And then hopefully somebody like Mike comes along and says, well, stop hitting your head against the wall. Let's take a walk. Let's figure this out. And then they're going to come back, and instead of butting their head up against the wall, now that, sledgehammer comes and just knocks it over.
Well, I asked her, I said, what made you come to that seminar on Saturday? And she said, you. And I said, okay, but think about it for a second. What made you come to that seminar? And she said, I knew I needed help, and I knew you were the person to help me. Right? I mean, and it's like, anyway, so it was quite an
It's a
experience.
gut feeling sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And
but it's a process, right?
it's
So
definitely a process.
over that year, she's been in mourning
Yeah,
that relationship breaking up,
yeah.
right? But what we found out was that relationship was abusive.
Mhm.
And so she's been in mourning, but she's also been trying to heal. And what she's been doing is she's been detaching, right? And she's been putting this wall up, okay, where she won't let anybody in because she's injured. She's
Yeah.
in a place where she's right. And so I told her, I said, listen, you have, and this is true, you have the answers. You just have to ask. You have to ask the right questions to yourself, and you need to start writing them down. You need to start journaling again. You need to
Mhm.
start having quiet time with yourself and start asking yourself these questions. And she's like, well, what kind of questions? I said, how can I get past this? How can I heal? How can I achieve this? How can I, right? How?
Yeah.
It's all about how. And it's all about, instead of why is this happening to me? It's how can I overcome this? How can I do what I know I want to do? How can I get to that place? You have the answers. You just have to ask the right questions and
Yeah.
let your brain give you the answers. People like Tony Robbins understand this, and they understand it at a deeper level than just about anybody else on the planet, right? Ed Milet, those types of people, they are really Gary Vaynerchuk, right?
Yep.
Very, very good at asking themselves the right questions. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk about your podcast. I also want to talk about what the future looks like for Business Bros and for you in particular. We'll be right back. Did you know there's an app that has no side effects that allows you to use sound waves to tell your brain what you want it to do? It's called newcalm.com, and it's amazing. It literally uses sound waves. If you want to tell your brain to go to sleep, if you want to tell your brain to recover, if you want to tell your brain to put you in peak physical state, if you want to tell your brain to focus, if you want to tell your brain to take a power nap, you can do all of these things and more with newcalm.com. Go to newcalm.com today, promo code Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go there today. And we're back with Hernan Sias, and we're talking, before the break, we were talking about healing, right? And we were talking about how entrepreneurs a lot of times sort of build this wall, and they build this wall out of it's a protection mechanism, right? Because they're in a place where they're injured, and they really need to get past that. And like you're talking about, when they're trying to get through that wall and they're banging their head against the wall, sometimes they need to back up, go for a run, right? Or a walk or whatever, right? Get moving and detach themselves from whatever this is, because this is a
Mhm.
pattern, right? They back up and then they look at the wall differently and they realize, okay, there's a door here,
Yep.
right? I can go this
Oops.
way
How did I not see
and
that?
reduce the brain damage, right? I mean,
Mhm.
come on, man. I call it Dane Bramage, but right. So, can we talk for just a second about, like, you started this podcast 7+ years ago, almost 8 years ago, right?
Yep.
What was it that made you decide to start a podcast? Because back then, there's a million podcasts now. Back then, there weren't.
Yeah, yeah. This is a little bit before COVID era. And so I told you guys earlier about my brother joining the Navy and
Yeah.
then leaving. So 8 years later, he gets out of the Navy and he didn't know what he was going to do. He knew he had the GI Bill, but other than that, he didn't know what he was going to do. So I kind of dragged him into the insurance business, and that's kind of what helped us kind of really grow at the time. He got him licensed, got him going, off and rolling. So not only did he leave me stranded when he left, right? He left me with this business. Then he got out of the Navy and I got him situated again. So at the time I was doing real estate coaching And I thought, I got to do something, because I've noticed that in like a lot of the businesses that I started, one of my weaknesses was the marketing and the sales aspect, that closing, right? I would build a good business because I could build a good referral base, but not really good about going out and getting incoming leads, which is what a lot of businesses struggle with, right? They struggle with having a mechanism of customers coming in.
True.
So you mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk. Ironically, at the time, I was really listening to a lot of his stuff, and I loved what he was saying on stage. And one of the things he said was, "You're a media company first, everything else second. Find a way to build a distribution channel. Maybe you're a YouTuber, maybe you're whatever content creation you're going to do it." And so I thought, let's do the one that is the easiest to do and doesn't show my face. Let's get into podcasting, right? So that's what I did. I went on Amazon. I ordered, this podcast starter kit. It gave me, a couple mics, and yeah, exactly. Right.
Me too.
Everything you needed to get started.
Yep.
And at the time we were not doing video, right? At the time it was audio only. And I needed to come up with the show name. So I was like, look, and my brother's name is James. I was like, look, James, we're going to start this podcast. And he was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I was like, just come on here, have a conversation with me. I won't even put your name if you don't want. We can call it, I don't know. Like we so what are we going to talk about? I was like, I don't know, let's talk about business. That's like one of our favorite topics. All right, cool.
Is your brother always along for the ride?
Well, now at this point, he's feeling guilty, right? Like he's now has to come along because, like I've helped him out so much.
It's
so
kind of like your mom, right?
Yeah.
Your mom, this is your mom coming out in you. You know 100%, that, right?
100%.
You're like, come on, here we go. Come on. We're going
for
a ride.
In me,
we're going to LA. We're going to LA to work the food bank.
Yeah, that's my mom. 100%. That's where I got it from. I to Bless this day, I always know that's where it is, because for sure. And then the support that came from Dad. That's what James got, right? He's the supporting character here. So he begrudgingly comes on board. And my goal was simple, because at the time Joe Rogan had like 1,000 episodes, and I thought, cool, if I can get to 1,000 episodes, I'll be super famous. I will have this whole lead generation thing figured out, no problem. So here we go, starting in episode 1. And the way he got started is I got him like an 18 pack of Budweiser and he had it right next to him. And here we go. So we do episode 1, and we decided to record, 2-3 episodes right off the bat, just to have something to post. By like episode 3 or 4, he's like got a good buzz going on. And like we hit that start button, and I was like, all right, guys, welcome to another episode. And that's when he goes, business bros. I go goofy, and it kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Right. And so we started doing interviews, him and I, just not interviews, but like conversations, him and I on the show. And about 50-60 episodes in, he's like, dude, we should just interview people. So I was like, oh, well, I know some realtors, like let's reach out to some realtors. And so I reached out to a couple people, and surprisingly, people said yes. They were like, yeah, I'll be on your show. So we'd bring them over to the house, we'd sit down, we'd have a conversation with them. And one of them was a video guy, and he was like, why aren't you recording this at the same time? And I was like, I don't know, because I don't know how to do that. Right? So he came, he showed us a thing or two, recommended some software to use. And so we started adding video component to it. One of the things I'd ask every single guest at the end was, hey, who do you think would be a good guest to have on the show? And they'd recommend, their level up person, right? Their boss, or somebody they wanted to help out or impress. And so before you knew it, we started having kind of big heavy hitters. And it's kind of cool because they weren't such big heavy hitters at the time. They were kind of getting started. But now, 7 years down the road, I've had some of the biggest names in the real estate game on my show, thanks to just starting at the beginning. Ryan Lipsey from Tycor Title is on the show. Jesse, I forgot her last name, but she's from the Real Producers magazine.
Jesse Wright. Yeah, she's been
right.
On.
Yeah. So Jesse's been on the show.
She's been on our show too. Yep. And so is Ryan. Yeah.
Ryan, I've had Gabe Mendez on the show. He's one of the cool
Gabe
stories. All these different people, and I have them when they're really early on, right? Dean Aguilar from the Dean Aguilar group.
I haven't had Dean on. I've got to get him on.
I've had him and Aphrodite on the show. Like a lot of these different people from that space that just went off and blew up. Like they're phenomenal people. I knew at the time when I was interviewing them, they're a level above where I'm at. Like they're
Mhm.
a different breed of animal when it comes to what they're doing. They
Yeah.
knew this was the industry they wanted to be in. They were going full force into it. Whereas me, on the other hand, I'm kind of like dabbling here and there, right? I got a tax practice, I got an insurance practice, I got my real estate license. I'm kind of dabbling and learning. But the podcast allowed me to interview these people and find like these stars and these personality traits and these habits that they have, and they were just freely sharing their information with me, and I got to kind of pull and pluck and learn from these people all kinds of different things, and it kind of took off from there. Well, James decided, he was going to do 3 years. That was his sentence, I guess. So he did 3 years with me, and after that, he was like, "All right, dude." It was after COVID. He's like, I think I'm gonna be done here. It was kind of perfect timing because he did this. He's always wanted to do a marathon. He ran a marathon and then fractured his back and running his marathon. So he was laid up when he decided to quit. He's like, I think I'm done. But he was also going through his own physical ailments. He's fine now.
Wow. That's good.
Always having back discomfort, but he's not
Is he back to running
laid up.
marathons?
He's not gonna run anymore. No,
No.
he switched over to the stationary bike now, so he's good. But yeah, he wishes he could run the way he used to. But
Was it just too much jarring on his spine?
Yeah, that boy's a running fool, but it's not just the running fool part. When he was young, he was the kid that would jump off the roof and
Oh,
backyard wrestle into tables, and so
Yeah.
years of wear and tear will do that to you.
Yeah, well,
They tell you not to do it because you'll feel it in your 40s and 50s, but
yeah.
they don't lie, right?
Yeah,
That's
they're not
definitely what
wrong.
happens. They're not
They're not-
wrong.
they're not wrong. I'm
They
in
weren't
my
lying to you.
50s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
You feel it, right? You feel
Right.
it.
And I'm still
Yeah.
thinking about, okay, I really shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, exactly.
I enjoyed doing it,
Yeah, definitely. A lot of memories.
I didn't kill myself. I
Yeah,
survived.
I'm still here. So, he did 3 years with me. And then at that time we had switched. So it used to be in-person interviews, which was
Mhm.
super awesome. Got to shake hands and do stuff like that. COVID put a big halt to that. And
Yeah.
so we had to convert. And so I started using StreamYard, which is a cool platform for podcasting. And it kind of opened up the floodgates at that point, because then we started interviewing people from different aspects of business, not just
Yeah.
in the real estate space. And now, being that we were streaming live on multiple platforms, it just opened up the floodgates. And we at the time I was doing free interviews, and then I switched over to like $1 interviews because I wanted to have something on the table for them to show up to the interview, because
Mhm.
you'd have people scheduled and then they wouldn't show up. But I got to the point where I was doing 8 interviews a week, 2 a day, and what I switched up doing was, instead of doing them here in like my own little house studio, I took the show on the road, and I started doing them in my financial algebra classes. So each class would get an interview, and I thought it was super cool because now they're getting exposed to a different type of industry out there.
Yeah.
Maybe it could have been a coach. It could have been somebody in the tech space. It could have been somebody in the pharmaceutical space. It could have been somebody who had a, multi-million-dollar exit, somebody who's syndicating this project. But it didn't matter. It was the fact that, if you didn't know these opportunities existed, then you didn't know that was a path other than graduating and going to college.
Yeah.
Right? That's the path that you're always told as a high school kid. But now you have these other people, and they're coming on the show, and the questions I would ask them too is like, tell me about, did you go to college? What was your high school like? Right. And now they got to see that, oh wait, that kid got D's in it, or that guy got D's and F's in high school, and look what he's doing. Right.
Mhm.
That was awesome to be able to show. But apparently, because I make money off the show, I can't do it in the classroom because it's called double dipping. And so, principal came and said I can't do it. So, we shifted it, and now it's not part of the classroom anymore. But a lot of the skill sets that I learned while doing the podcast, I get to bring into the classroom as well. And so, it's opened up a lot of doors, and I've learned so much. You can learn a lot from reading a book, but if you can talk to the author and ask the author questions, it's a whole different ball game. It's been a phenomenal ride, and like I said, we're 1,400 episodes in and counting, and it's been pretty cool.
That's awesome, dude. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you. That's awesome. So what's the single most important thing you've learned in the 7+ years doing the podcast?
Yeah, the single most important thing is don't give up.
Yeah.
Especially early on, I had committed to doing a podcast every single day.
Mhm.
And when we first started doing interviews, it wasn't as easy to book people on the show.
Right.
So not every day did I have a guest when we were in the first,
Yeah.
800, 900 episodes. But every day we turn on the mic
Mhm.
and we'd create a quick little outline of what we were going to talk about. And we hopped on and we spoke. Right.
Mhm.
And at the beginning, I hated the sound of my voice. I couldn't stand the way I looked on camera, but we did it anyways. And then I would listen to it, and that was the worst thing to do. I
Yeah.
hated listening to myself, but it also helped. I remember this one episode, we'd say okay and a lot on every episode. I would hear it in the replays all the time. And when I pointed it out to my brother, he's like, I know, we do that a lot. And I was like, well, how are we gonna fix that?
Mhm.
So we set up 3 mics, right? He had a mic, I had a mic, and then we had a glass jar that had a mic. And then we had a stack of quarters each, right? And every time I caught him saying a filler word like that, clink, 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 you'd hear it on the mic. He caught me saying it, clink, 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 clink. And literally, we're on the show having a conversation about business or whatever, but actively trying to improve the way we speak, the way we pronounce things, trying to avoid filler words, like just trying to get better every episode. And no matter what, you still show up, you
Mhm.
still get behind the mic, you still turn it on, you keep going. I remember I did this episode because I didn't have anything to do that day and I needed to put out an episode. So I did this behind the scenes. And so I would carry the camera with me. I'm like, this is our focus, right? This is where the mics plug in, right? And this is how we set up the camera. And I'm doing this live. And because I'm moving around, I can't see the display on here. Finally, when I sit down to look, everybody's like, your audio's off. I can't hear you. The mic's not on. I did this whole hour thing, live streamed it, talking to myself, because even as a professional, when I've done this already it's like 800 episodes in or whatever, I've done this so many times, and yet I still forgot to turn the on button on the microphone, right? So it doesn't matter the mistakes you make, the experience you have, you just got to get up and keep doing it. I didn't like the way I looked on camera. And in 2020, I decided, let's fix that. And that's when I really started doing stuff. I started running. I started doing push-ups and sit-ups. And it was something as simple as I was going to run a mile. Didn't care what, if I walked it, didn't matter if I, crawled it, it was going to get done.
Mhm.
And the other one was I was going to do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups every day. Right. And so it didn't matter if it took me an hour to do it or if I got it done in 10 minutes. Well, it slowly but surely that 1 mile became run the whole time. It became 2 miles, it became 3 miles, got up to the point where I was running 6 miles a day, some of the best shape of my life. I started doing push-ups on a regular basis. I bumped it up to 200 and 200. At first it would take me, I would put a timer on and every hour would go off and I'd do 50 push-ups until I could finish the 50 push-ups. Before I knew it, I was doing 200 and 200 in like a 30-minute session.
Mm.
And then I started doing the weights and, one thing led to another. And now I'm in the best shape of my life. And it's cool. Now I don't mind being on camera. Now I'm
Yeah.
comfortable. Now, people come up to me. Like the funniest thing is every single school year, though, the kids come up and they're like, Mr. Sias, how much do you bench? And I have to tell them I'm old, dude. I don't max out like that. I don't do
Mhm.
that anymore. I don't ego lift, dude. I consistently work out, but I don't do the ego lifting. But the fact that they're asking me means it's starting to show.
Yeah.
Right. It's presenting on its own without me having to
Mhm.
do anything. And like everything else, yesterday I was doing my normal presentation for class and a student goes, you sound like you speak professionally. Like your voice sounds professional. Well, I mean, again, it's starting to present itself because you hop on the mic every day. You do it for a consistent basis. You're gonna get better. Tom Brady's a perfect example. Goes way down in the draft, but he consistently works hard every day, ends his career a GOAT, right? Greatest of all time. So
Mhm.
you don't have to have the skill set up front. You just have to have the determination to keep going. Even if you don't like the way you sound, keep going. You don't like the way you look, keep going. You don't like the way the show comes out, keep going. You can always improve. You can always make changes. There are no rules in this podcast game.
Mm-hmm.
You want to change your intro? Change your intro. You want to change your logo? Change your logo. You want to change your name? Change your name. Like, you can do anything you want here. When you were in kindergarten and your teacher said you can be anything you want to be, she didn't lie to you. She just didn't know that in this generation, that's the brand that you create with the content you put out. You make whatever it is that you want. As long as you do it consistently and on a regular basis, that's who you will become.
Yeah. And that's absolutely true. And that is absolute gold, man. Absolute gold. I hope people are listening to this, because it really is about that. It's about, like, one of the things you mentioned, Tom Brady. If you listen to Tom Brady interviews back when he was the 6th round draft pick, and you listen to Tom Brady today, it's not the same guy.
No.
Right? He has a different mindset. He has a different determination. He has a different commitment level. Back when he was the sixth round draft pick, okay, he had belief in himself, and he walked up to Kraus, walked up to the owner and said, it's Kraus,
greatest
right?
decision you've ever made. Yeah, you're right.
I'm the best decision you ever made, right? And he believed in himself. Now he's in a place where he's developed to a completely different person. But when you listen to that guy, he's not the guy saying, I'm the best decision you ever made. He's the guy saying, I've now proven myself, right? And here's what you have to do. Here's why I love football, because it's hard.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And you need to not shy away from whatever your hard is, right? It's like, choose your hard. And I think that's incredibly important in fact, I know it is, for people to watch. Look at how you've developed. Look at how he's developed. Okay. I'm 340 some episodes into this podcast. And I told you before we hit record, in 3 days, we're recording this on August 12th. On August 15th, we'll be 2 years old. We're heard in 66 countries worldwide. If you'd have told me 2 years ago that we'd have had this many episodes, we had Lee Steinberg on the other day.
Nice.
You know who Lee Steinberg is?
No, I don't.
Okay. Did you ever see the movie Jerry Maguire?
Yeah.
The Cameron Crowe, who wrote Jerry Maguire, followed Lee Steinberg around for 2 years to gather the material, including the line, "Show me the money."
He's the agent.
He's the agent. He's the one that he's basically the character that Tom Cruise
plays. Yeah.
Okay. And in the deal, and I don't know if you remember this, but there was a spot, there was an ESPN show, and Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character was sitting there being interviewed, and he's like, "You're not going to make me cry. You're not going to make me cry." Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
And then the contract comes over, and it's this number and all that kind of stuff. Well, Jerry Maguire's literally walked up to Lee Steinberg. He had a cameo in the movie, and he goes, "You remember Troy Aikman from the Super Bowl?"
Yeah,
that was Lee Steinberg, right?
That's him.
So we had the biggest agent on the planet on our show a couple of weeks ago. And he's coming back on to promote his book right around Super Bowl.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Amazing, man. Absolutely amazing. And I know for a fact that the people that are listening to our podcast are going to learn a ton from you. They're also learning a ton from him. You with me?
Yeah.
Because it's all about what you've learned from doing it. Okay. And it's like that. I love the jar thing, by the way, with the quarters. You set up a mic and you clink, 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 right? It's not the quarter. It's the actual act of taking the quarter and putting it in the jar. It's the recognition that you're going to do something here so that you make yourself better. I want people to understand the lesson here, right? It's literally about making improvements every day. And after 1,400 episodes, dude, you are way better a communicator than you ever dreamed of being, 7+ years ago, right? Right before COVID.
100%.
And I love the
Yes.
fact that you just basically take your family and go, okay, here we go. We're going for a ride, right? Just like your mother does. Your mother, I just love that, man. That is so flipping cool. Okay.
You got
So,
to, you got to. This, it's, you know what, and I'm gonna piggyback off that. It doesn't matter who you talk to. Like you hear Mike Tyson say, one of my favorite Mike Tyson's lines is you gotta do the things you hate to do, but you gotta do them like you love them.
yeah.
Or you see Kobe, Mamba mentality, and he talks about it too. He's like, look, most kids are gonna practice, an hour, 2 hours, maybe 3 times a week. But if you did it morning routine, afternoon routine, night routine, and each of those is a 2-hour workout, and you did that for, a week straight, and then you did that for a month straight, you're light years ahead of everybody else. The consistency factor, the doing of the work, Goggins talks about it all the time, right? I don't know if you can curse on your show, so I'm not gonna say what he says, but
well, we're a G-rated show. We're literally rated clean and all that kind of stuff.
Perfect. So I won't repeat what Goggins says.
Even if you do repeat what he says, right, we're gonna bleep it out anyway.
We'll beep it out. But he's
the
like,
thing about
MFer, right?
the thing about Goggins, the thing about Goggins is Goggins just has this flippant attitude, right? Kobe did too. Kobe used to show up 2, 3, 4 hours early to practice when he knew that there was another team that was coming on the court and they were going to be practicing, right? They were in town to play them. Okay. He would do that so that they'd be intimidated. So they would know, not through his words, through his actions, that there was no way they were going to be able to compete with him. He started messing with their mind before they ever tipped off.
It's amazing how that works. But you know what? While Kobe was playing, while Jordan was playing, people hated him.
Yeah.
People hated him for the work ethic. People hated him for their ability to be better than everybody else, for the reason that they knew they could be doing the same thing, but weren't willing to do it. It was a reflection. That's what I talked about earlier. And this is why, it's always uncomfortable, because people are going to tell you, you're doing another episode. You're doing it again. Oh, you can't go to that because you have this plan. When are you going to give that up? That's too much. Nobody even listens to your show. I remember, like, my mom and dad were the only ones who listened to our podcast the first, maybe, 60, 70 episodes, right? But it's cool because at the beginning, we sucked anyways, right? Like, it was not, like, if you go to listen to our episode 1, I warn you, it's trash, right? It's not very good at all. But so is every Mr. Beast's first YouTube video is trash, right? Kobe's first time on the court was trash. Like, Brady's first time picking up a football, trash. Like, you start there. Everybody does.
Yeah.
But if you don't give up, I promise you can't do anything but get better.
Yeah. Just focus on that, right? Just focus on picking up the football every day, picking up the basketball every day, getting on your podcast every day. Just focus, right? We had a major turning point last year where we had 400 people request to be on our podcast in a 4-day period.
That's awesome.
We went from chasing all these people to being chased. You with me? And it was one of those things where it was sort of one of those turning points where you just go, wow. Like today, I mentioned to you when we were scheduling this, we're actually off the Calendly calendar because our Calendly calendar literally is booked through just to December. I think we have 3 spaces or 4 interviews available for December, and then we're in January. And we're right now talking August 12th.
Yeah, that's one of the first ways I started to monetize the podcast, by the way. Our schedule, I had opened it up 6 weeks in advance, and it was booked solid for 6 weeks. And people would be asking the same thing. I want to get on the show. How can I get on the show? And so I was like, you know what? I'm tired of answering this question. I'm just going to do a premium episode. So $100, you skip the line. It's a different calendar. These are the times that are available for that calendar. And then people started paying it. And I was like, what? What is going on here? And I'll be honest, Mike, like about a year ago, I was like, all right, I think I'm done. I crossed that 1,000 episode marker, right? And I was like, I think I'm done. I'm gonna hang up the towel here. I'm gonna close all the free episodes, and I'm only gonna leave the paid ones. Maybe we'll get rid of that. Nope, those kept coming too, right? And so, like, when you start doing something consistently on a regular basis, you're putting out a good product, something that people enjoy and learn from. It develops on its own over time. So keep that consistency, get up, keep doing it. Even if you feel like nobody's listening, nobody's watching, I only got 10 people. That's 10 people that didn't know who you were that now know who you are.
Yeah.
Right? 10 people that got to hear, in my case, 10 people that got to hear an entrepreneur come on the show and pitch their story or pitch their product, right? Like those, and 10 becomes 20, and then 20 becomes 50, and then 50 becomes 100. And then you're like averaging 1,000 viewers or audio listeners per episode. Like it grows. It will get better as you get better.
Yeah.
Promise nobody's paying for Kobe tickets when he was a teenager.
Yeah. 1,000%.
When he became a professional and the work ethic didn't change, right? He's been doing that for so many years.
He actually dialed it up.
He actually dialed it up. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
He actually took it to a whole other level. And, you know, that was that hate that people had for Jordan and for Kobe and all that. They use that as fuel, man.
Oh,
they absolutely use that as fuel.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, somebody asked Jordan one time, they said, you know, so who are you competing with? He said, nobody. I'm competing with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
It is amazing.
Pretty awesome. So what does tomorrow look like for Business Bros, the podcast? What does tomorrow look like for you as a business owner, teacher?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't really have a future plan for the Business Bros. It's one of those things where I enjoy doing it. It is one of those things that at the beginning, my intention was to be the next Joe Rogan. And now my intention is to try to bring as much attention to an entrepreneur and help them grow their business as I possibly can. And so it's shifted a little bit. I enjoy it. I love talking about the different avenues of business, the different types of things. Every once in a while, I'm presented with an opportunity where I'm like, that is a good one. And I get involved myself. Right. So it's my cheat code to a financial education. It's my cheat code to a business education. And so I'm going to continue to do it as long as I can do it. And so that's really at this point. Now that might change, like in any business, right? That might change. The path might change a little bit down the future, but for right now, that's where I'm at. I don't have any big plans for the show itself. The insurance agency, that continues to grow. Tax practice, that continues to grow. If you have interest in that, you can find me. I'm at Business Bros Pod for all my platforms anyways. But yeah, that's really about it. As far as the classroom is concerned, that has been an ongoing thing. My goal right now is to give my students the tools they need to be able to market and promote any business or product they possibly can. I am a Billy Gina's marketing alumni. I was actually named Marketer of the Year in his class for 2021, which is super awesome. We got to do this whole graduation thing at Petco Park, and got the whole surprise announcement. I had to give the whole speech type thing. That was awesome. But I take those same skill sets and I want to apply them in the classroom. So my students are learning how to go high level. They're using like AI chat bots and conversation bots to help build funnels and follow-up sequences, a skill set that they have that they can turn around and use either to make money now while they're in the classroom, or at least have a skill set that they can go out when they graduate and build sustainable life income, something that is a little bit different from getting a 9-to-5 job. By all means, they're welcome to do that. But we live in San Diego and we live in some inflationary periods where a job isn't necessarily going to pay the bills. You need to have a way to make money outside of that, or on top of that, I should say.
In addition,
in addition to that. So having the skill set to promote a business, to advertise a particular product, to measure the results and improve on them and do something good for a company, which is get them customers. I think that's a valuable skill set to have, and it's not one that gets taught in the classroom. So yes, I teach them how to buy a house and buy a car and do their taxes and invest for the future, but embedded in there, they're learning a skill set that they can use today. And that's cool, that's really where my focus is on right now in the classroom.
That's so cool. I'm so glad you're doing this, and I'm so glad that you were our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been an absolute romp, and I've enjoyed every second of it. Thank you so much for being here, bud.
Appreciate it, Mike. Have a great rest of your day, and good luck on 2 years plus.
Thank you, dude. Can I ask you a question? Did you know that there's a technology that uses sound waves that'll tell your brain what to do? There literally is. It's called newcalm.com. It can tell your brain to heal, tell your brain to sleep, tell your brain to do all kinds of things. It can get you fired up. It can be a pre-workout. Newcalm.com. And the promo code is Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at the Mike Litton Experience.